Good morning, everyone. Today we are talking about my home state of Florida. So in 2024, a rocket left Cape Canaveral every 4.2 days. In 2024, Florida welcomed its 140 millionth visitor of the year. And in 2024, the state's economy became larger than the entire nation of the Netherlands. This is the Florida that everyone likes to celebrate, but if you drive 20 minutes inland from this launch pad, from the Cape, you'll see something that no one is putting on their postcards anymore. So I'm going to give you both sides of the story of what's going on here in Florida, the one that we like to brag about, and then the one that we hope that you don't notice. And I am going to break Florida up into three parts and what we can do here in 2025 and onwards for the state. So part one is going to be about the good that is actually good in Florida. I mean, because Florida has so much potential, so much growth going on, there is a lot of good happening in the state. And then part two will be the price that nobody wants to pay. So there are things here that are happening in the state which probably are not really being addressed all that much. And so we're going to talk about that. And then the last portion of this video is going to be about the choice that we still have in the state. The choice that Floridians can still make to make Florida, Florida, and to continue this wonderful growth that we have here in the state. So if you're interested, stick around and let's dive in.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So let's start with what's working, because there's a lot here that's working for Florida. One being, Florida is an economic firepower most states can only dream of. With a real GDP close to 21.9% growth since the pandemic began, that's almost double the US average, which is just insane. It's unheard of. And then by late 2025, by late this year, Florida's economy is roughly 1.65 trillion and it's climbing. If it were a country, it would rank 17th globally, ahead of Mexico and ahead of South Korea. So number two, the population magnet. Florida obviously is a population magnet. Everyone from everywhere is coming to Florida, especially since the pandemic began. And 23.5 million people now call Florida home. That's an increase of almost 2 million in the last 5 years. Most are working age domestic migrants and other families, and that is the exact demographic every single state wishes that they could import. And Florida is getting them all. Number three is Floridism is a tourism hotspot on steroids. In 2024, Florida had a record 140.9 million visitors, and that record is, it's going to be smashed this year, actually. So the tourism industry here is phenomenal. The direct visitor spending last year in 2024 was 120 billion, and the total economic impact with multipliers from tourism is north of 186 billion dollars. Massive, massive numbers. Tourism has always been a huge thing here in Florida. Obviously, we have all the theme parks. We have wonderful beaches. Florida's hotspot for tourism just continues to get warmer and warmer. And if you look at it from a jobs perspective, 2 million Floridians go to work every single day because of tourism. Whether it's because someone wants to spend a week at the beach at Daytona or New Smyrna or Cocoa or South Miami, anywhere, or if they want to go on Guardians of the Galaxy or any of the theme parks, 2 million people call Florida home and have jobs here because of Florida's tourism. So let's get into number 4, Space Coast Renaissance in the Cape. It now averages 92 launches a year. That's more than the rest of the planet combined most years. We have SpaceX, Blue Origin, ULA, Relativity. These are all here and expanding in the state of Florida. Every launch that these companies do is worth $1 to $3 million in direct local spending, and the high-wage engineering jobs that are here that these companies are bringing, these are permanent positions, likely not to be replaced by AI anytime soon. So let's get into number 5, the diversification that is actually happening. So we have manufacturing employment that has now passed tourism employment in raw payroll. And that happened for the first time in 2023 with semiconductors from Skywalker in Osceola County, the financial tech in Tampa, and in Jacksonville, the biotech clusters that we have in Gainesville and Miami. We have Lockheed Martin, we have Northrop Grumman. We have these defense organizations here that are utilizing all these space companies and launching things into space. And the growth here in the space industry is phenomenal. The Cape is, launching rockets pretty much every single day. It's actually pretty exciting to see all these launches go off, whether it's daytime, nighttime. If you're close by the Cape or not, you can see the launches pretty much from anywhere, and it's impressive. So that being said, these launches being impressive, what's also impressive is Florida's port power. We have Miami's port, which is the number 1 cruise port on planet Earth. Then we have the port at Canaveral, which is about to overtake Miami in cruise passengers. And then we have the Jacksonville port and the port of the Everglades moving record amounts of cargo. Florida's port industry is actually just phenomenal. And like I said, it's continuing to grow. And with all the things that are coming here, it is a wonderful sign for Florida to have these wonderful ports being so active, especially with the cargo ports being very, very active and setting records. Then we have number 7, which is no state income tax, and maybe in 2026 and onwards, no property tax, but we'll see. Florida is extremely business friendly. It's still the number 1 state for new business formation per capita for the last 4 years. And companies aren't just thinking about moving to Florida. Like we have Citadel and Blackstone, these hedge funds coming. We have Elliott Management. All their headquarters are now here in the state of Florida. So people are not just saying, oh, we're going to think about moving to Florida, our headquarters there. No, people are actually doing it. It's because we are so business friendly. And there's no end in sight, as far as I can see, about Florida changing its methods about bringing business here. And then we have number 8, the healthcare boom. With an aging population that we have here in the villages and elsewhere throughout the state, we all know everyone comes here to retire. We have an aging population, which means more hospitals and more research centers that really can't be built fast enough. From the Moffitt Cancer Center to the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville to the Cleveland Clinic in Weston to UF Health, we have world-class medicine here that also employs tens of thousands at salaries that are actually high paying, anywhere from $80,000 to $150,000 a year, which is wonderful for our citizens here in the state. So yes, the brochures aren't lying. Florida right now is one of the greatest economic success stories in modern America. It is a beautiful place to live in. I still love this state so much. It has so much going for it. But there are some caveats to what's going on. And every single miracle that we have, there's also a shadow. And Florida's shadow is growing quite quickly. I don't want to say faster than the sunshine that comes down on it, but it is growing and it is concerning. So what we're going to do is now we're going to look at the price that nobody wants to pay. And what I mean by that is there is things that are happening here in the state where natural Florida is, going away fairly quickly, and what Florida was known for is, kind of disappearing as well. So let's dive into this. The vanishing Florida in 2023 and 2024 season. So I'm talking about the citrus industry here in Florida. So Florida growers picked 300 million boxes of oranges and grapefruit from 2023 to 2024, that season. Now here in 2024, 2025, that forecast is way down to 14.5 million boxes. That's a 95% collapse in the last 20 years. from citrus screening to hurricanes, and most of all, like these bulldozers that are coming in and setting up the apartment complexes and the housing developments and these strip malls. They are contributing to a large portion of the massive decline in the citrus industry as well. So since 2017 alone, roughly 150,000 acres of citrus and 300,000 acres of forest and ranch land have been converted into houses, to warehouses, to solar farms. If you were to drive State Road 60 from Tampa to Vero Beach, you won't find 10 consecutive minutes without a new subdivision entrance. Like I said before, the growth here is insane, but at the same time, the way that we're building may not be the most appropriate. So what I mean by this is that we're building fast, but we're also building somewhat stupid. Here's the dirty secret nobody in the development funding campaign ads are going to tell you. Most of what's being built right now is low quality, it's flood prone, and it's car dependent. And if you've lived here for a long time, you can see the quality of the things that are going up. It's wood framing, it's sheetrock, it is like not really good material. It's not being built with brick, it's not being built with cinder block, it's not being built with steel, it's not being built with, you don't see any stucco anymore. What made these houses in the past great was how they were being built, and now what's being built is very cheap and very low quality. And you see roof trusses being held together by staple guns, you see 2x4 wall spacing like 24 inches away from center, or you have slab foundations that flood now twice a year. And I have firsthand experience about like these new developments that go up and these old developments getting flooded because we don't have the proper retention ponds in place. And I'll get into that in a little bit. But after Hurricanes Helene and Milton, we have brand new subdivisions in Cape Coral and Pasco and Manatee counties, and these neighborhoods that are there that are older are now flooded for weeks because ponds aren't designed with these new developments that happened, and they're not really addressing the reality when they're building. So why is this happening? It's happening because of the death of concurrency. Florida used to have some of the toughest growth management laws in America. The rule was simple. You can't approve a big project unless roads, schools, and utilities can handle it. This is what you call concurrency. And between 2019 and 2023, that legislation was gutted out. Now developers pay this tiny mobility fee, often pennies on the dollar, and the county just shrugs because they say, well, we need more housing, so yeah, pay this fee. You don't have to do the roads or the schools. You don't have to worry about any of that. Just pay this tiny fee and you should be good to go. So what's the result of that? Well, if you look at I-75 from Naples to the Georgia line, routinely it ranks in the top 10 for the worst bottlenecks in America. If you look at State Road 54 in Pasco County, it went from 2 lanes to 6 lanes and it's still on gridlock. And now we have new developments from West Tampa that have added 15,000 homes with exactly 0 new lanes on the roads to serve them. So, like I said, we're building quickly, but we're building stupidly, and we're building with low quality. On top of that, we have insurance and affordability collapse. The average homeowner's insurance here in the state of Florida is $6,000 a year, and unfortunately it's climbing. And so in some coastal counties, it's $10,000 to $15,000. Major carriers have stopped writing new policies entirely. We have Citizens Property Insurance, which is the state insurer's last resort, now has over $1.4 million in policies. We have a medium home price of $411,000, but we have a medium household income of $67,000. To live comfortably in Tampa or in Orlando in 2025, you need to average a salary of $217,000 for the household income, which, like I said, no one is making. The median household income is $67,000. So, the average Floridian is struggling. And, the old school Floridian, if they're not moving here from New York or California or wherever and have big dollars to spend, they are either moving out of the state or, like I said, they're struggling desperately. We have teachers, we have firefighters, we have nurses. The people that Florida says it desperately needs, well, they can't really afford to live here. Unfortunately, that's just the reality of how things are. So let's go back a bit and talk about, these developers not planning for traffic and adding the roads that need to be added. The traffic here breaks souls. The average Tampa commuter now spends 52 hours a year, more than a full week, stuck in traffic. In Orlando, it's 49 hours. In Miami, it's ridiculous, 105 hours. And every new roof adds another 2 cars to those numbers. At least, right? At least. So here's the part that nobody wants to say out loud. That it's not inevitable. Florida can still grow. Obviously, it's growing quite quickly. And it can grow without turning itself into Houston with palm trees, right? And there's 5 things that we can actually do so that we can ensure Florida grows at a steady and healthy rate, but that our growth is managed successfully and we don't have the problems that we're having today with the poor infrastructure that's going up, with the lack of roads that are being developed, with the lack of retention ponds that need to be added. So I'm going to give you these 5 things, and maybe a politician will see this and consider it, but we'll see. The first one being bring back real concurrency, or at least bring an honest 20-year infrastructure plan before another shovel hits the dirt. I think bringing back concurrency would be a big step forward to manage our growth much more effectively than what's being done right now. Number 2, require every new development to retain the first inch of rainwater on site again. This worked in decades past. We know how to do it. It needs to be done. Like I said, I've had firsthand experience with flooding because of new developments that have gone up that flood old developments. And it's a catastrophe. It's so much damage to your property, and you are panicking in the middle of the night trying to, prevent your house from flooding. And it's all because proper retention ponds haven't gone in and the developers just pay this tiny little fee, right? So that's another thing we can do. Number 3 would be protect the last big citrus and ranch blocks. So from Polk County to the Highlands to DeSoto to Hendry, we need to protect these places with transferable development rights. So what that means is that we need to pay the landowners to keep the trees instead of paying Lennar to knock them down. Florida's citrus is iconic, right? It is one of the things that Florida is known for. In fact, we produce, I think it's like 45% of the nation's citrus. So to see those things go means a deterioration of the state's identity. And I think that we need to keep this citrus industry. You don't want to be exporting your fruits from another nation when you can produce them right in your own hometown. So let's move on to number 4. Number 4 would be legalize and incentivize missing middle housing in places we've already paved. So we have 4 to 8 story apartments and condos along the Tamiami Trail, the Dale Marbury, and International Drive and Colonial Drive. We have these corridors, right? We should be utilizing them much more effectively. Instead of going and looking at, look at this piece of forest, let's knock that all down. Or let's move away with these citrus, they've experienced this citrus greening, so let's knock them all down. We should be incentivizing our farmers to try to keep the oranges. I mean, obviously get rid of the citrus greening plants. Those are ineffective. You don't want them. But we need to find a way to blend the two communities together. And number 5 would be stop letting developers write 6-figure checks to commissioners and then magically get their rezoning approved at 3 a.m. Transparency isn't radical, it's necessary. 10 years from now, 2 pictures of Florida are possible. Picture A, another 1 million rooftops, another 500,000 cars, another 50,000 acres of former forest turned into retention ponds and Publix parking lots. Or we have picture B, the same 1 million new Floridians, but living in walkable towns with orange groves still visible from the highway and roads that actually move. We still get to decide which picture ends up in our postcard. So Florida, I'm asking you to choose wisely, choose smart, and when elections come, make sure that you're voting for a Florida that has, its continuing growth, but smart growth, and not just growth for the sake of growth. So I want to say thank you all for watching this video. I hope you found it informative or at the very least entertaining. God bless you. God bless the state of Florida. And until next time, bye for now.